The crystalline walls of the Galactic Council chamber stretched high above the assembly floor, catching and reflecting the light from Concordia's twin suns. 47 species had gathered here today, their representatives seated in a circular arrangement that symbolized equality. At least that was what the architecture suggested. Reality told a different story. Ambassador Jiho Park sat in Earth's designated seat, his hands folded calmly on the smooth surface before him. Beside him, Ambassador Minji Kong reviewed data on her tablet, her military background evident in her perfect posture and alert gaze. They had been through these sessions many times before, but today felt different. Today, the tension in the air was thick enough to taste. High Arbiter Quelesh called the session to order with a melodic chime from his console. His 4 eyes scanned the assembly as his translator device converted his speech into hundreds of languages simultaneously. The topic was simple enough on paper: renewal of the non-aggression accords that had kept peace in the galaxy for 2 centuries. Every species present had signed them 50 years ago. Including Earth, the renewal should have been a formality. Chancellor Vexthor of the Draknari Empire rose from his seat without waiting for recognition. His scaled body towered over most other representatives, and his voice carried natural authority. He spoke with the confidence of someone who had never been challenged. His people had been a galactic power for 3,000 years. Earth had barely reached the stars in comparison. Before we proceed with renewals, Vexthor announced, I propose we discuss modifications to voting protocols. Specifically, limitations on newer member species who lack the wisdom and experience of established civilizations. Jiho felt Minji tense beside him, but he remained still. They both knew what was coming. This had been building for months through subtle comments and procedural delays. Now it would become explicit. Another representative, a floating gas entity named Corvan, added his support. The Draknari Chancellor raises valid concerns. Some species have contributed little to galactic stability while demanding equal voice in crucial decisions. Perhaps, suggested a third voice from across the chamber, we should evaluate contributions objectively. Military strength, technological advancement, cultural achievements, lifespan, and maturity of civilization. Jiho activated his microphone. Ambassador Park of Earth, I would caution against such criteria. They risk creating a hierarchy rather than a council of equals. Laughter rippled through several sections of the chamber. Not polite chuckles, but open mockery. Vexthor's mouth split in what passed for a smile among his kind. How noble of the humans to lecture us on equality. Tell me, Ambassador, how many centuries did your people spend killing each other over trivial differences before you finally limped into space? More laughter. Jiho's expression remained neutral, but inside, anger began to burn. Minji's hand moved slightly toward her console, then stopped. Not yet. We acknowledge our troubled history, Jiho replied evenly. We learned from it. Growth requires recognizing past failures. Growth? Vexthor's voice dripped with contempt. You call it growth when your entire civilization spans barely 10,000 years? When your people live less than a century and consider that a full life, you are children playing at being adults. Worse, you are barely sentient apes who somehow stumbled onto technology you do not fully understand. The chamber erupted in noise. Some species protested the harsh language, but many more laughed or voiced agreement. The Matherian delegation clicked their approval in rhythmic patterns. The Salcor representative hissed his support. Jiho stood slowly, his movement drawing attention. Chancellor Vexthor, your words crossed the line from policy debate into personal insult. I ask that you retract them and we return to professional discourse. Retract? Vexthor spread his arms wide in a theatrical gesture. Why should I retract the truth? Look at your species, Ambassador. No psionic abilities, no natural armor or weapons. Your technology is crude mechanical constructions rather than elegant biointegration. Your ships lumber through space while ours glide. Your weapons are noisy chemical reactions while we have mastered energy itself. Tell me, what exactly does humanity contribute to this council beyond amusing attempts to mimic your betters? Minji activated her microphone, her voice sharp. Ambassador Kong, Earth Military Liaison. Chancellor, you mistake different approaches for inferior ones. That is a dangerous assumption? Is that a threat? Vexler leaned forward. From a species whose entire military could barely defend one of our minor colonies? Please, Ambassador Kung, do enlighten us about Earth's mighty power. High Arbiter Qualesh made a half-hearted attempt to restore order, but his tone suggested he did not strongly disapprove of the direction. Perhaps we should return to the procedural question at hand. Chancellor Vexler has proposed limiting voting rights for species who have been council members for less than 100 standard cycles. Earth is currently the only species this would affect. Let us vote on the proposal. Jiho's mind raced. This was worse than expected. Not just insults, but actual restrictions on Earth's already limited influence. I request time for Earth to consult with our government before this vote proceeds. Denied, Qualesh said flatly. The proposal is straightforward. Vote now. The Chamber's voting system activated. Holographic tallies appeared above each delegation's position. Green for support, red for opposition, yellow for abstention. The colors bloomed across the chamber like flowers opening. Green dominated. The species who had remained neutral to Earth, who had quietly traded with humanity, now voted to restrict them. Only 5 delegations showed red or yellow, most of them small species who remembered their own struggles for recognition. Final tally, 42 in favor. 3 opposed, 2 abstentions. Vexler's satisfied expression made Jiho's decision easier. He had been authorized to use his discretion in extreme circumstances. This qualified. He stood again, and this time Minji stood with him. Earth formally requests 72 hours to respond to these changes, Jiho announced. His voice carried across the sudden quiet that fell over the chamber. Something in his tone made even Vexler pause. Respond? The Chancellor recovered quickly. What is there to respond to? The vote is complete. Yes, Jiho agreed. And in 72 hours, Earth will deliver its official position on these developments and our future relationship with this council. He began gathering his materials, moving with deliberate calm. Minji did the same, her military discipline evident in every precise motion. As they prepared to leave, Vexler could not resist one final jab. Run along, little apes. Go consult with your short-lived elders. Perhaps they will teach you humility. The chamber erupted in laughter again, louder this time. Representatives who had maintained neutral expressions before now joined in openly. It was the sound of beings who had forgotten what real danger felt like, who had grown comfortable in their superiority. Jiho and Minji walked toward the exit, their footsteps echoing on the polished floor. At the threshold, Jiho paused and looked back. His face showed no anger, no hurt pride, nothing but cold calculation. When he spoke, his voice was quiet enough that only those nearest heard him clearly. You will regret this day. Then they left, and the laughter followed them out into the corridor. None of the representatives noticed how quickly that laughter would die. None of them understood that they had just made the worst mistake in galactic history. They had humiliated humanity in front of the entire council, and they would soon learn that humans never forgot an insult. The 72-hour countdown had begun. The emergency session convened 6 hours after the council incident. Deep beneath Geneva, in a facility that officially did not exist, Earth's true leadership gathered. The room was circular, designed for holographic displays that now showed real-time data streams from across human-controlled space. President Soman Beek sat at the head of the table, her expression grave as she listened to initial reports. Jiho Park stood before the assembly, still wearing his diplomatic uniform. Beside him, Minji Kang pulled up footage from the council session. The other leaders watched in silence as Vexler's insults played back, as the laughter echoed through speakers. As the voting tally sealed Earth's humiliation, 42 species voted to restrict us, Jiho said quietly. 3 opposed, 2 abstained. The message is clear. They see us as inferior, barely worthy of membership. Chancellor Vexler called us barely sentient apes to our faces, and the council laughed. Director Heian Choi of Earth's Intelligence Bureau leaned forward. She was a small woman with sharp eyes that missed nothing. They see what we have allowed them to see. It is time they learned the truth. President Beak nodded slowly. Show them. Heian stood and activated her console. The holographic displays shifted, filling with data that made several people in the room draw sharp breaths despite knowing it was coming. For the past 30 years since we joined the Galactic Council, we have been watching, listening, learning. We have intelligence operatives on every major world. We have tapped their communication networks. We have mapped their military installations, identified their supply chains, and documented their political structures down to individual officials. She pulled up file after file. Each one represented a different alien species, and each file was enormous. The Drachnary Empire has 17 major military shipyards. We know the production capacity of each one. We know their maintenance schedules. We know which ones have structural problems from cutting corners on materials. Chancellor Vexter himself has embezzled approximately 4 billion credits from military budgets over the last decade. Another gesture brought up new data. The Salcor Confederacy claims a fleet of 8,000 warships. The actual number is 3,200, and half of those have not left orbit in 20 years. They have been faking fleet movements with sensor spoofing. More files cascaded across the displays. Political scandals, treaty violations, hidden weapons research, illegal territorial claims, corruption at every level. The peaceful galaxy that the Council presented to the public was riddled with lies and deception. They think we are primitive, Heian continued, because we showed them primitive technology. They think we are weak because we acted weak. Every assumption they have made about humanity has been carefully cultivated by us. Fleet Admiral Doyen Lee stood next, his uniform crisp despite the late hour. He was a veteran of Earth's unification wars, a man who understood both strategy and sacrifice. Our official military registry lists 1,200 warships, 300 stations, and minimal defensive capabilities. That information is accurate as far as it goes? He pulled up a new display, and this one showed a very different picture. Our actual fleet consists of 3,800 combat vessels, 700 stations, and manufacturing capacity that exceeds the next 5 species combined. We have been building in secret for 3 decades, using resources from systems we never officially claimed. The room stayed silent as Admiral Doyen walked them through Earth's true military might. Ships that use quantum displacement drives, allowing them to appear anywhere within a light year instantly. Weapons that could crack planetary shields in seconds. AI-controlled drone swarms that made human casualties nearly impossible in most engagements. The Council species have been at peace for 200 years, the Admiral continued. Their military forces are ceremonial at best. They have no recent combat experience, no innovation in tactics, and their technology has stagnated. They believe war is a thing of the past. He smiled grimly. We have never stopped preparing for it. Dr. Kyung Nam spoke next, the chief scientist looking tired but excited. Our technology appears crude to them because we use different principles. They pursued biological integration and psionic enhancement. We pursued artificial intelligence, quantum mechanics, and materials science. They see mechanical systems and assume simplicity. They do not understand that our simplest ship computer has more processing power than their best scientific installations. He brought up schematics that looked like art as much as engineering. We have singularity weapons that violate 3 galactic conventions. We have nano-fabrication systems that can build a warship in 72 hours. We have AI warfare suites that can hack their systems while defending ours. And we have kept every bit of it secret. President Beak listened to it all, her face unreadable. When the presentations finished, she stood and walked to the central holographic display. Earth rotated there, blue and green and beautiful. Home to 10 billion humans who had trusted their leaders to keep them safe. They humiliated us, she said softly. They laughed at us. They voted to restrict our rights as if we were children needing guidance. She turned to face the assembly. We have 3 options. We can accept this treatment and continue as we have been, hoping for eventual acceptance. We can lodge formal protests and fight through their bureaucratic systems for years. Or we can show them exactly who and what humanity truly is. The silence stretched. Everyone in the room knew what she was really asking. This was the moment that would define Earth's future in the galaxy. They could remain quiet and safe, or they could risk everything. Minji Kong spoke first. They will not stop with voting restrictions. This is the beginning. Next, they will limit our territorial claims, our trade rights, our access to technology. They will slowly squeeze us out of relevance because they see us as inferior. Accepting this guarantees our eventual marginalization. Jiho nodded. I have spent 5 years trying to build relationships through diplomacy. Today proved that no amount of patient negotiation will change their fundamental view of us. We are apes to them, animals. They will never respect words from animals. Heian added her voice. Our intelligence indicates that several species are already discussing further restrictions. Within the year, they plan to reclassify Earth as a protectorate rather than a full member. We would have no rights at all, only permissions granted at their pleasure. Admiral Doyon's words carried weight. We have the capability to enforce respect. The question is whether we have the will. President Beak looked at each person in turn. These were Earth's best and brightest, people who had sacrificed careers and normal lives to keep humanity safe. They had built a secret military, maintained a vast intelligence network, and kept Earth prepared for the worst while hoping for the best. Now they needed to decide if that preparation would be used. If we do this, she said slowly, there is no going back. The galaxy will never see us the same way again. We will be respected, possibly feared, but never underestimated again. It means withdrawing from treaties we spent decades negotiating. It means showing our strength in ways that cannot be misunderstood. Some species may see it as aggression. They already see us as inferior, Minji pointed out. At least this way they will see us as dangerous. The president turned back to the holographic Earth. Somewhere up there, the council was probably celebrating their successful vote, confident in their superiority. They had no idea what was coming. 72 hours, she said finally. We use every second of it. Han, I want complete intelligence packages on every council species ready for distribution. Doyon, position our fleets, but keep them hidden until I give the word. Kyung, make sure every system is ready for full operational deployment. She looked at Jiho and Minji. You two will deliver our response to the council. Make it clear, make it absolute, and make sure they understand that they did this to themselves. Orders were given, plans were refined, and messages were sent to Earth's few allies warning them to stay neutral. In 72 hours, the galaxy would change. Humanity had been patient, had played the role of junior member seeking acceptance. That patience had been rewarded with mockery and contempt. No more. As the meeting ended and leaders dispersed to their tasks, President Beak remained alone in the command center. She placed her hand on the holographic Earth, watching continents and oceans rotate beneath her fingers. Forgive us, she whispered to the billions who slept peacefully above, unaware of what was coming. But they left us no choice. Exactly 72 hours after leaving the council chamber in humiliation, Jiho Park returned. This time, his steps carried different weight. Minji Kang walked beside him, and both wore expressions that made several representatives shift uncomfortably. The laughter from 3 days ago felt distant now, replaced by growing unease as Earth's ambassadors took their positions. High Arbiter Quilesh called the emergency session to order. Chancellor Vexter lounged in his seat, clearly expecting Earth to either beg for reconsideration or formally submit to the new restrictions. Several other species wore similar expressions of anticipation. A few, those with better intelligence services or longer memories, looked worried. Ambassador Park, Quilesh began, you requested this session to deliver Earth's response to the Council's decision. You may proceed. Jiho stood and the chamber fell silent. He pulled out a data chip and inserted it into his console. The chamber's main display activated, showing a simple document. Just text, no elaborate graphics or diplomatic flourishes. When he spoke, his voice was calm, almost pleasant. 3 days ago, This council voted to restrict Earth's voting rights based on our species' age and perceived contributions. Chancellor Vexler called us barely sentient apes. Many of you laughed. Some of you voted to limit our participation in galactic affairs. He paused, looking around the chamber. We have considered your decision carefully. Vexler snorted. I hope you have come to understand the wisdom of accepting your limitations, Ambassador. Jiho smiled, and it was not a nice smile. Actually, Chancellor, we have come to a different conclusion entirely. The United Earth Alliance hereby formally withdraws from all galactic treaties, effective immediately. No exceptions, no negotiations, no grace period. Immediate withdrawal. The chamber erupted in confused noise. Quillesh banged his gavel repeatedly. Withdraw? Ambassador Park, surely you do not mean all treaties? The non-aggression accords alone, all treaties, Jiho repeated firmly. Non-aggression accords, trade agreements, scientific exchange programs, hyperlane access conventions, resource sharing pacts, diplomatic immunity protocols, everything. Every single agreement between Earth and the Galactic Council is now void. Minji stood beside him, activating her own console. Furthermore, Earth is revoking access to all human-discovered hyperlanes. There are 63 such lanes currently used by Council species. They are now closed to non-human traffic. We are also claiming 47 disputed systems under ancient salvage law, and freezing all alien assets in human-controlled space pending review. The chamber descended into chaos. Representatives shouted questions and demands. Chancellor Vexler stood, his scales darkening with rage. You cannot do this. Those hyperlanes are vital trade routes. Those systems have been unclaimed territory for centuries. You have no right. We have every right, Jiho cut him off. The same rights you exercise freely. The same laws you wrote. We are simply choosing to enforce them. And before you accuse us of aggression, let me be perfectly clear. We have not attacked anyone. We have not threatened anyone. We have simply withdrawn from agreements with parties who do not respect us. Alarms began sounding across the chamber. Representatives received urgent messages on their personal devices. Faces paled, changed color, or showed whatever passed for shock in their species. Quillesh read something on his console and his 4 eyes widened. What is the meaning of this? He demanded. We are receiving reports of human warships appearing across the galaxy. Military vessels at trade routes, near resource stations, outside homeworlds. This is an act of war, Minji shook her head. Not war, Arbiter. Demonstration. We are showing you the reality of the situation, the reality you have been too comfortable to notice. Captain Borasong's voice suddenly broadcast through every speaker in the chamber and every communication device in the building. Her transmission reached across the galaxy, carrying to every major world and station. This is Captain Song of the ESN Retribution. All Council species, this is not an attack. This is a demonstration of Earth's actual military capabilities. You have operated under false assumptions for too long. We are correcting those assumptions. On the main display, video feed appeared. It showed the Retribution, Earth's flagship, hovering near an uninhabited moon in neutral space. The ship was massive, larger than anything in the Council's combined fleets. Its hull black and covered in what looked like geometric patterns that hurt to look at directly. For 30 years, Captain Song continued, Earth has allowed you to believe we are primitive. We are not. We have not been idle while you grew comfortable. Watch carefully because we will only demonstrate this once. The Retribution fired. Not conventional weapons, not anything the Council had seen before. A beam of twisted spacetime lanced from the ship to the moon. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the moon simply ceased to exist. No explosion, no debris field, just there 1 second and gone the next. The weapon had unmated at a fundamental level. The Council chamber fell absolutely silent. Every representative stared at the display in horror. That kind of power was not supposed to exist. Several galactic conventions banned weapons of such destructive capability. Earth had just revealed they possessed them anyway. We have 300 ships equipped with singularity weapons, Minji announced into the silence. We have 1,500 ships with quantum displacement drives that can appear anywhere within a light year with no warning. We have AI warfare systems that make your best computer networks look like children's toys. And we have kept all of it secret while you laughed at our crude mechanical technology. Jiho continued, his voice still calm. Earth currently has fleets positioned at every major trade nexus in the galaxy. We are not blocking them yet. Consider this a preview. Those hyperlanes we mentioned? 63% of galactic trade flows through them. If we close them, your economies collapse within weeks. Vexler had recovered some of his composure, though his voice shook with rage. This is blackmail, military coercion. The Council will never accept such tactics. The Council? Jiho laughed bitterly. The Council just voted to treat us like children. You mocked us, restricted us, and expected us to simply accept it. Now you face reality. We are not the weak newcomers you believed us to be. We are the most powerful military force in known space, and we have been for a decade. Defense Minister Taiwan of the Draknari Empire suddenly stood, his device showing urgent military reports. Chancellor, our fleet is scattered. Standard patrol positions, we have no rapid response capability. If Earth wanted to attack, we could not defend the homeworld for at least 6 hours. Similar reports came from other species. Decades of peace had made them lazy. Their fleets were small, outdated, and positioned for ceremony rather than defense. Earth's fleet, hidden and built in secret, was everywhere at once. Qualesh tried to regain control. Ambassador Park, this is madness. You cannot simply withdraw from all treaties. Think of the chaos, the economic disruption, the consequences. Minji finished. We have thought of them. We thought of them while you laughed at us. We thought of them while you voted to restrict us. We thought of them while Chancellor Vexler called us apes. This is not impulsive, Arbiter. This is strategic. Jiho brought up a new document. Earth is willing to negotiate new treaties. Not with the Council as a whole, but individually with each species. We will meet with your representatives separately. Discuss terms that reflect the actual balance of power, and establish new relationships based on mutual respect. You mean based on fear? Vexler spat. We mean based on reality, Jiho corrected. You feared nothing, respected nothing, and learned nothing from 200 years of peace. You forgot that power determines relationships. We are reminding you. Species that were neutral or supportive of Earth will receive generous terms. Species that mocked us will face appropriate consequences. On displays across the chamber, more reports flooded in. Human ships were maintaining position, not attacking but making their presence undeniable. Trade had already stopped in multiple sectors, not because Earth blocked it, but because merchant ships were too frightened to move. The galactic economy was freezing in real time. This is economic warfare, someone shouted. This is withdrawal. From treaties you told us we did not deserve, Minji replied. You wanted us to have less voice in galactic affairs. We have obliged by removing our voice entirely. You wanted us to understand our limitations. We are showing you yours. Jiho gathered his materials once again. Earth's delegation will be available for individual negotiations starting tomorrow. We suggest you consider carefully what you will offer. The old relationship is over. We will not be mocked again. We will not be restricted again. We will be respected, or we will be alone. The choice is yours. They walked out of the chamber for the second time in 3 days. This time there was no laughter. There was only stunned silence and the gradual realization that the galaxy had just changed forever. The weak newcomers had revealed themselves as sleeping giants, and the Council had awoken them with insults. Outside, as they boarded their shuttle, Minji allowed herself a small smile. Think they learned their lesson? Jiho watched through the viewport as Council representatives scrambled to contact their governments. Some will learn quickly. Others will need more convincing. Chancellor Vexler, for example, still thinks this is a bluff? Then he will learn the hardest lesson of all, Minji said quietly. That pride is expensive when you cannot afford the price. The galactic economy began its collapse exactly 18 hours after Earth's withdrawal. It started small, with merchant ships refusing to travel routes near human fleet positions. Then larger corporations suspended operations pending security guarantees that no one could provide. Within 2 days, 60% of interstellar trade had simply stopped. Worlds that depended on imported food and medicine began to panic. Minister Ji-won Seung sat in Earth's new negotiation center, a facility that had been empty a week ago and now hosted desperate delegations around the clock. She was young for such a crucial position, but her reputation for fairness and steel nerves made her perfect for this task. Across the table from her sat the Mytherian ambassador, an insectoid being whose antennae twitched with anxiety. "My people are suffering," the ambassador clicked through his translator. "Medical supplies from the Keller systems cannot reach us. Food shipments are blocked. We need access to the hyperlanes." Ji-won consulted her tablet, pulling up files that made the ambassador's antennae droop. "Your government voted to restrict Earth's council rights. Your representative laughed when Chancellor Wexler insulted us. Your military conducted 3 separate exercises near human colonies last year that violated safety protocols. Why should Earth help you now? Because people are dying." The ambassador's distress was genuine. "Please, whatever our government did, our civilians are innocent." Ji-won softened slightly. The Mytherians had not been the worst offenders, just followers of stronger powers. Earth is not interested in causing civilian casualties. We are interested in establishing new relationships based on respect. Here are our terms. She slid a document across the table. The ambassador read it, his antennae slowly rising as he processed. The terms were strict but not punishing. Access to human-controlled hyperlanes in exchange for formal recognition of human territorial claims. Trade agreements that heavily favored Earth but did not crush Mytherian interests. A public apology for the council vote. Most importantly, a clause that recognized Earth as an equal power. "These terms are acceptable," the ambassador said quietly. "Better than we feared." "That is because your species was neutral to us most of the time," Ji-won explained. "You followed bad leadership, but you were not cruel. Earth remembers the difference." Similar negotiations played out in dozens of rooms. Ambassador Yuna Huang handled communications with Earth's allies, the 5 species who had opposed or abstained from the restriction vote. Their terms were generous, almost favorable. Increased trade, technology sharing, mutual defense pacts. Earth rewarded loyalty, and those species would emerge from this chaos stronger than before, but not everyone was willing to negotiate. High Arbiter Quellesh attempted to contact Earth's government directly, demanding immediate talks to restore the council structure. President Beek's response was delivered by simple text message. The council had its chance. Earth deals with nations now, not committees. The political implications rippled across the galaxy. For 200 years, the council had been the ultimate authority. Now it was revealed as powerless, unable to enforce its decisions or protect its members. Individual species began to realize they needed Earth more than Earth needed them. On the Draknari homeworld, Chancellor Wexler faced growing internal pressure. His pride had led them into this disaster, and his people were starting to understand the cost. Defense Minister Taiwan stood before an emergency session of the Draknari High Command, presenting analyses that grew bleaker with each slide. "Our fleet is obsolete," Taiwan said bluntly. "Not outdated by years, but by generations. While we rested on our reputation, Earth built weapons we cannot counter. Their quantum displacement drives make position meaningless. Their AI systems would hack our networks in seconds. Their singularity weapons could destroy our homeworld before we could mount a defense." "Impossible," Wexler insisted. "They are primitive. We have seen their technology. Crude mechanical systems, no elegance, no sophistication." "That is what they wanted us to see," Taiwan replied. "That is what we arrogantly believed because it confirmed our superiority." "We were wrong, Chancellor. Catastrophically wrong." Other voices joined the criticism. Economic ministers reported that the Draknari economy was already contracting. Without access to key hyperlanes, their trade empire was crumbling. Food prices had tripled in days. Unemployment was spiking as interstellar businesses collapsed. We must negotiate, one advisor urged. Accept Earth's terms, whatever they are? Never. Vexler's scales darkened with rage. I will not bow to those animals. I will not let them dictate terms to the Drachnary Empire. We have allies. We will form a coalition. We will force Earth back into submission through military action. He sent urgent messages to the Salcor Confederacy, the Vorn Assembly, and the Krell Federation, 3 species who shared his view of human inferiority. 3 species with large fleets and proud military traditions. Within days, they responded positively. A coalition was forming. Captain Bora Song watched the coalition forces gather from the Bridge of the Retribution. Intelligence had predicted this response. Some species would rather fight than admit they were wrong. She activated her communication system. Admiral Doyon, coalition forces are assembling at Sector 7, 4 species, approximately 800 ships total. They are conducting military exercises. The Admiral's response came immediately. Show them what exercises look like when you have actual military capability. Do not engage, but make your presence known. Let them understand what they face. Earth's fleets conducted their own exercises near Drachnary space. Unlike the Coalition's traditional formations and predictable maneuvers, the human fleet demonstrated capabilities that defied conventional warfare. Ships appeared and disappeared using quantum displacement. Coordinated AI-controlled drone swarms moved in patterns no biological crew could match. Defensive shields that had taken the Drachnary centuries to develop were pierced in seconds during simulations. The message was clear. If this came to actual combat, the coalition would be destroyed completely. Taiwan watched the human exercises and felt cold certainty settle in his core. Chancellor, we cannot win this. Even with the coalition, we are outmatched by orders of magnitude. Our ships are too slow, our weapons too weak, our tactics too outdated. But Vexler's pride would not bend. They are bluffing. Those demonstrations are tricks, illusions meant to frighten us. When we strike in force, they will collapse. The defense minister made his decision in that moment. He could serve his pride-blinded leader, or he could serve his people. It was not a difficult choice. He began quietly contacting other members of the High Command, people who understood that pride was not worth extinction. Meanwhile, back in Earth's negotiation centers, success built upon success. 39 species had signed new bilateral treaties. Most accepted Earth's terms with minimal haggling, desperate to restore trade and end the economic chaos. A few tried to negotiate harder but found that Earth's diplomats had detailed files on every violation. Every secret, every weakness their intelligence services had uncovered. You want better terms? Minister Jiwan asked one particularly stubborn ambassador. Then explain to your people why your government has been skimming credits from social programs for personal enrichment. We have documentation. We have communications. We have bank transfers. Shall we make them public, or shall we proceed with the treaty as written? The ambassador signed. Earth was not cruel in its negotiations, but it was firm. The new treaties established humanity as a peer power, sometimes a superior one. Territorial disputes were resolved in Earth's favor. Trade agreements guaranteed human access to resources and markets. Most importantly, every treaty included explicit non-discrimination clauses. No species could ever again treat humanity as inferior without violating binding agreements, but the Drachnary situation remained unresolved. Vexler's coalition continued to build, his rhetoric becoming more aggressive. He called Earth's actions illegal, their military buildup an act of war, their treaties coerced and therefore invalid. He promised that the coalition would restore proper order. President Beek reviewed the situation from Geneva, watching as diplomatic solutions narrowed. The Drachnary Chancellor will not bend, she said to her advisors. His pride is absolute. Then we must break it, Admiral Doyon replied. Not through war, but through demonstration so overwhelming that continued resistance becomes obviously suicidal. And if he still refuses? Heian asked quietly. Then his own people will remove him, Minji said with certainty. Defense Minister Taiwan is already organizing opposition. The Draknari are proud, not stupid. When their leadership becomes a liability, they know how to correct it. As if on cue, reports came in of massive protests on the Draknari homeworld. Citizens demanding their government negotiate with Earth, stop risking their lives and economy for the Chancellor's wounded pride. The High Command meeting that night was particularly tense. Vexthor stood before his military and political leaders, demanding loyalty, insisting victory was certain. But the room was cold. One by one, his supporters abandoned him. Finally, Taiwan stood. Chancellor Vexthor, you are relieved of command. The High Command has voted unanimously. Your pride has endangered our entire species. We will clean up your mess. The former Chancellor's roar of outrage changed nothing. He was escorted out, his era ended. The Draknari Empire would survive, but it would never be the same. And Earth had never fired a shot. The galaxy was learning a lesson it had forgotten during 2 centuries of peace. Power was not about age or history or biological superiority. Power was about capability, will, and the wisdom to know when you were beaten. 6 months after the Council incident, the galaxy had been reshaped. The old Council chamber stood empty now, a monument to an era that had ended with laughter and insults. In its place, a new structure had been built on neutral ground, designed with input from dozens of species but reflecting principles that humanity had insisted upon. Equal representation, merit-based influence, and absolute respect for all members regardless of age or biology. President Soman Beek stood at the podium in this new chamber, preparing to deliver her address to the reformed Galactic Assembly. Every species that had signed bilateral treaties with Earth had been invited. 39 species had sent representatives, and another 4 were negotiating for entry. Only a handful of holdouts remained outside the new order, and even they were reconsidering. The chamber was packed. Representatives sat in identical seating, no hierarchy in the arrangement. Though everyone knew that some voices carried more weight than others now, Earth's voice, backed by demonstrated power and economic leverage, carried the most weight of all. So Min looked out at the assembled beings and remembered that day. 6 months ago when Joho Park had walked out of this very building in humiliation. How quickly things changed when truth replaced comfortable lies. 6 months ago, she began. Her words translated into hundreds of languages simultaneously. Humanity stood before the old council and was told we were barely sentient apes. We were laughed at. Our rights were restricted. Our contributions were dismissed. Many of you participated in that mockery, either through active support or silent acceptance. The chamber was absolutely quiet. Several representatives looked uncomfortable, but none interrupted. We could have responded with anger, Soman continued. We could have sought revenge. We could have used our military superiority to punish those who humiliated us. But that is not who humanity is. We responded with truth. We showed you the reality. You had been too comfortable to see. We withdrew from treaties that treated us as inferiors. We demonstrated capabilities you had dismissed as impossible. We gave you a choice: accept reality and negotiate in good faith, or cling to comfortable lies. She gestured to the assembled representatives. Most of you chose wisely. You saw that the old order was built on false assumptions and that a new order was necessary. You negotiated fairly, accepted terms based on actual power rather than historical reputation, and signed treaties that benefit all parties. For this, Earth thanks you. The new relationships we have built are stronger than the old ones because they are based on truth. Ambassador Yuna Wang sat in Earth's delegation, watching the reactions carefully. Some species looked relieved, grateful even. They had feared Earth would be vindictive, but instead they had found humanity to be firm but fair. Earth had rewarded those who had supported them, worked reasonably with those who had been neutral, and showed mercy to those who had followed bad leadership without malice. The Draknari section was notably different. Former Chancellor Vexthor was not present, having been removed from power and facing corruption charges. In his place sat Envoy Yan Choi, a younger Draknari diplomat who had spent the last months rebuilding her people's reputation. She looked nervous, and with good reason. The Draknari Empire had paid the highest price for its leader's arrogance. Soman turned her attention to that section. The Draknari Empire presents a more complicated case. Your former leadership chose pride over wisdom, threats over negotiation, and coalition over compromise. You came very close to military conflict that would have devastated your people. But at the last moment, your own citizens and military leaders showed the courage your chancellor lacked. You removed him from power and approached Earth with genuine humility. She nodded to Yan Choi. Your new leadership has worked tirelessly to make amends. You have accepted territorial concessions that returned systems to their rightful inhabitants. You have agreed to military limitations that ensure you cannot threaten your neighbors. You have paid reparations to species harmed by your former policies. Most importantly, you have issued formal apologies not just to Earth but to all species you treated with similar contempt. Yan stood, her movements careful and respectful. President Beak, on behalf of the Draknari people, I once again offer our deepest apologies for the words and actions of our former chancellor. We were blinded by pride and ancient glory, forgetting that greatness must be maintained, not simply inherited. We thank humanity for showing restraint when you could have shown destruction. We are humbled and grateful to be given a chance at redemption. The chamber watched as Soman descended from the podium and approached the Draknari envoy. For a moment, tension filled the air. Then Soman extended her hand in the human gesture of peace. Yan took it, and the chamber erupted in approving sounds from dozens of species. The past is past, Soman said loud enough for everyone to hear. The future is what we build together. The Draknari have learned their lesson. Let no species forget it. She returned to the podium, her expression growing more serious. But let me be absolutely clear about the principles that govern this new order. First, respect is not negotiable. Every species here has value, every civilization has achievements, every people deserves dignity. Age does not determine worth. Biology does not determine capability. History does not grant superiority. Admiral Doyon Lee watched from the military observer section, noting how many representatives were nodding along. The galaxy had learned this lesson the hard way, but it seemed to have learned it well. Second, Soman continued, power must be acknowledged honestly. The old council pretended that all species were equal in capability, while secretly maintaining hierarchies based on age and reputation. We will not repeat that mistake. Some species have larger fleets, others have better technology, others have more resources. These differences exist, and we will not pretend otherwise. But we will ensure that power is not abused, that treaties are fair, and that might does not make right. Minister Jiwon Song allowed herself a small smile. They had worked hard on these principles, balancing idealism with realism. Earth had insisted on respect for all while refusing to pretend that military and economic realities did not matter. It was a delicate balance, but one that seemed to be holding. Third, Soman said, this assembly operates on merit and contribution, not seniority. Earth is a permanent senior member not because of our age but because of our demonstrated capabilities and our willingness to enforce order when chaos threatened. Other species can achieve similar status through their actions and contributions. Greatness is earned, not inherited. The final principle drew the most attention. Several older species looked uncomfortable with the idea that their ancient histories granted them no special privileges. But they also remembered what happened when they had tried to dismiss a younger species. They would accept merit-based influence rather than risk Earth's demonstrated alternatives. Finally, Soman concluded, this assembly has real power. Unlike the old council, which could be ignored with few consequences, this body can enforce its decisions. Earth guarantees this. We have the military strength to ensure compliance, and we will use it against any species that violates our agreements, including ourselves. The new order has teeth. She paused, letting that sink in. We came to the stars seeking partnership. We found mockery. We prepared for the worst while hoping for the best, and when the worst arrived, we were ready. We did not start this conflict. Chancellor Vexler started it with insults and laughter, but we ended it with truth and strength. Let that be remembered. As Solman finished her address and returned to her seat, Jiho Park leaned over to Minji Kong. Think it will last? Minji considered the question carefully. For a while, certainly. We taught them a lesson they will not soon forget. But memories fade, and comfort breeds complacency. Eventually, some species will test the boundaries again. Then we will remind them, Jiho said simply. As often as necessary. In orbit above the assembly, Captain Borasong commanded a permanent fleet presence. Earth ships patrolled the new order's boundaries, visible reminders of the power that guaranteed peace. It was not the peace of naive trust that had existed before. It was the peace of mutual respect backed by undeniable capability. The months that followed saw gradual normalization. Trade resumed, now flowing through routes that Earth controlled but did not abuse. Scientific cooperation expanded, with human technology beginning to appear in markets across the galaxy. Cultural exchange programs brought aliens to Earth and humans to distant worlds, building understanding that had been impossible under the old system. Former Chancellor Vexler watched these developments from his cell on the Draknari homeworld. He had been convicted of corruption and abuse of power, his titles stripped, his name becoming synonymous with prideful failure. Sometimes he wondered what would have happened if he had simply treated the humans with basic respect. But pride had made that impossible, and pride had destroyed him, on Earth in Geneva. President Beek met with her advisors one last time before stepping down. Her term was ending, and the new president would take her place. But the foundation she had built would remain. We changed the galaxy, Heian said quietly. Made it safer, fairer, more honest. We responded to their cruelty with proportional strength, Admiral Doyan corrected. We could have done worse. But we did not, Soman said firmly. And that is what makes us worthy of the position we claimed. Power without restraint is tyranny. We had the power to destroy. We chose to rebuild instead. Minji looked out the window at Earth's gleaming cities. Do you think the younger generations will understand? They will grow up in a galaxy where humans are respected, where Earth is powerful. They will not remember when we were dismissed as apes. Then we will teach them, Jiho replied. We will teach them that respect is earned through actions, that strength must serve justice, and that patience is not weakness. We will teach them the lesson we learned. Never mistake kindness for vulnerability, diplomacy for cowardice, or silence for ignorance. Years later, a young alien diplomat asked their mentor, a veteran who had witnessed the transformation, "What happened? Why did the old council fall? Why does everyone treat Earth with such caution?" The mentor was quiet for a long moment, remembering laughter in the council chamber, remembering the shock when fleets appeared across the galaxy, remembering the reshaping of civilization itself. Humanity taught us a lesson, the mentor finally said. They taught us that assumptions are dangerous, that mockery has consequences, and that patience should never be mistaken for weakness. They taught us to respect those who seem different, because difference does not mean inferiority. Most importantly, they taught us that when you push someone too far, you may discover they were holding back all along. And when humans stop holding back, galaxies change. The young diplomat nodded thoughtfully. So we respect them because we fear them? No, the mentor corrected gently. We respect them because they earned it. The fear came first, yes. But respect came after, when we saw that they used power wisely, that they built rather than destroyed, that they remembered mercy even when they had every reason for revenge. Fear fades. Respect, once truly earned, endures. In the new assembly chamber, Earth's flag flew alongside 42 others. Equal in size, equal in placement, but everyone knew that some equalities were more equal than others. And humanity, the species once dismissed as barely sentient apes, had claimed their place not through age or biology, but through capability, wisdom, and the patience to wait for the exact right moment to show the galaxy who they truly were. The lesson had been taught. The galaxy had learned. And Earth stood watch, ensuring that the lesson would never need to be repeated.